want to welcome each and every one of you guys for tuning in to Your Radio this afternoon with us. And welcome to Your Radio Talk Show episode number 32 right here on April 2nd, 2006. And I'm going to go ahead and basically introduce who all I have here with me today. And let's see, let me get this up here real quick. And we have DJ Spiderbite with us, and he's from Siege Perilous. We have Alex, who's from, I believe, Great Lakes. We have Crest, who is from Drakensfell, or better yet, should I say, I'm sorry, he's not from Drakensfell, he's from Europa. He plays on Europa, but he's from Germany. That's why I got the two mixed up. Also, we have with us today DJ Vampiria, who is also from Lake Superior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let them say hello to you guys, and then we're going to go ahead and jump right into the talk show. So starting with Spiderbite, go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for my absence over the past couple weeks. Real life takes precedence sometimes, but I'm happy to be back. I'm letting Viceroy take the reins this week so I can ease my way back in. And other than that, I'm looking forward to today's show. We got so much going on. And if you haven't done so already, go to SilsarianTales.com and download your own Spiderbite wallpaper.
Yeah, for all you Spiderbite fans out there, go and get that wallpaper. Also, speaking of wallpapers and everything, spoke with Eggman today and yesterday a little bit about wallpapers. And apparently, he is going to be making some kind of wallpaper for Your Radio. So for all you Your Radio fans out there tuning in today, in the future, in the next week or two, I would imagine, you're going to be able to go Silsarian Tales and download a wallpaper with Your Radio all over it. And maybe some of our characters or pictures or drawings, you know. It's going to be interesting. I don't quite know what it's going to look like, so I mean, I'm kind of in the dark on that as well, but I'm definitely excited about it. Looking forward to it. And so let's see. Alex, go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Hello, I'm Alex, and I'm from Great Lakes Sharp.
Like I said, Great Lakes. And it's good having you here with us today. And Chris, go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Yeah, hello, dear listeners. This is my first talk show. I'm not a native English speaker, so please be patient with me if I maybe mix something up. So this was just a routine announcement. I'm actually playing mainly Europa, but I do have some characters in Drachenfels as well, just to see what's going on the German chart.
Yeah, well, you would have to stay kind of home, or close to home, I would imagine. So, yeah, great having you here with us today. And let's see, we have Vampiria. Go ahead and say hello to everybody out there.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you too, sleepyhead. Just waking up, huh?
I just woke up just for this talk show to keep you on your toes.
Yeah. You do a good job of doing that. Let's see. Also, we're going to be having a few other DJs popping in later on during the talk show. We might be having possibly Deadeye coming over here from Sonoma, who'll be coming in later. We also have Town Drunk from Drakensfell. He plays over on Drakensfell. We're also going to possibly have Sunshine, who I believe plays on Lake Superior. I could be wrong about that, though. So be looking for them. They're going to be coming in here, sneaking their little way in here. Try to keep a low profile and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into the topics that we have here today. Let's discuss something about the targeting reticles, in which they've been discussing over there. As you know, they've been putting a new targeting feature into the game, and it has these brackets right now. Now, according to UO.com, when you go up to UO.com on their 5 for Friday, apparently that's not going to be the final look of the targeting reticle. It's going to look something totally different from what you've seen as the example. I mean, right now that was just simply example to give you an idea as to what kind of things they're toying around with for targeting. So I'm kind of wondering, Do you think it's going to be look anything better, or what? And do you have any concerns that it might be a bigger drain on your CPU usage, or what? So let's hear from you, Spider-Bite. Let's hear some of your thoughts on that.
Well, anybody who's ever fought me on the field in UO knows that I'm target challenged. Basically I'm dead before I've gotten everybody's health bars dragged onto the screen. And even after that, I'm usually rushing around with macros and stuff like that, trying to get a hit in here and there. So I think this targeting system is going to be a boon for those of us who, like I said, are target challenged. The prototypes that they mentioned, yes, when I first looked at it, I was immediately taken back to the days of playing Wing Commander, the original version, again. So, yeah, I hope they dumb them down a little bit, because, yeah, they are way a little overwhelming. So I'm glad that those were a quote-unquote prototype and not what's coming on. I'm not worried about system usage. UO has, being the old code that it is, does enough of that on its own. So I'm not worried about that dragging my system down in any case. Now, I can see in a huge field fight where, you have 20, 30 people on the screen, where that might be an issue with you guys and trying to sort through targets, and everybody's targeted with all these different colors going on, not to mention any NPCs that might be nearby, like vendors. If they have a way to, the one thing I would like to see is have a way to toggle and I hate the word, I wish they'd pick another word, the reticles. It just sounds bad, period. But toggle the ones you want to turn on and the ones that you don't. For example, I don't want to walk into my house and see every single chest lit up as I mouse over. And NPCs like vendors, player-run vendors. You walk past a player-run vendor and you have the house light up like a Christmas tree based on the photos that I saw. That seems to be the way that the mechanics are going to work, or at that time of testing will work. So, for me, yes, I'm glad. I just want them to dumb it down a little bit, make it a little more basic. It doesn't have to be as frilly as the prototype was. Other than that, I'm welcoming that system 100%.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree on you whenever you say reticle probably wasn't the best choice of words, because, so many other different things come to mind whenever I hear that word. Don't know why, but, yeah. Probably wasn't the best choice. But anyways, I just kind of hope we see something like splats, something like a little circle around their feet, which I was talking about last week. But anyhow, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, after 5 or so years of playing UO, I'm more concerned about the functionality of it instead of the, actual look of it, because, I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah, very good point, I guess.
go ahead.
Were you going to say something? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just basically like instead of the big blue blurs flying across my screen at ungodly speed, at least some sort of targeting system. I would also like to see some sort of arrow system. You know what I mean? Like if they go off screen.
Yeah. Arrows might be a good idea. To point in what general direction they went in. But then again, I don't know if I would like to have a arrow point in my direction. Because, whenever I'm trying to get away from somebody, I don't want them to know what direction I went in. However, I guess that would be kind of a good idea, but at the same time, it would have its drawbacks, I would imagine. Go ahead, Vampire, let's hear from you.
Actually, about the arrow thing, that would go on to tracking, the skill tracking, the arrows that leaves. And as for the target system, I still think it looks ugly, but in looking at the site, there is an option to set objects under one macro I believe, and then like monsters. Like you have the option to set different macros to cycle through these things, which will make it easier, but I still don't like the look of it. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, the arrows would definitely be great for targeting, but tracking. I'm not quite knowledge or informed as to how tracking works currently. But I guess you would have a little bit more knowledge about that, Vampire, so let's hear from you again.
Well, right now when you track, okay, it brings up a menu. You have your choice of what you can pick to track: human beings, animals, monsters, and whatever the person would fall under, because you've got, your stealthers that are running around as unicorns or Korans or whatever. When you get them on tracking, this ugly yellow arrow pops up and it flashes and it goes in the direction. So if the person isn't on your screen, if they're a screen away, it's in the corner of your screen pointing, go this way. And you follow it until you get the guy on that screen and you can, narrow down where he is. If they added that to the targeting system, that would be going into another skill. I don't know. I don't think that would be very fair. I mean, you get off the screen. As a target, you get off the screen, which happens every day. You're off the screen. But if there was an arrow pointing which way you went, then I think you're dealing with tracking.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I personally, if I'm trying to get away from somebody, I wouldn't want that. But before I go on to the next person here, let me go ahead and quickly introduce Tundra. He is with us here now. And so, with that said, go ahead and introduce yourself, Tundra.
Hey, everybody. It's me.
Yep, it's the Town Drunk. And so, with that said, we're going to go ahead and go to the next person with the red light on, and it's Bite Bite.
I was just going to touch on what Vampira did, and also Sarah Swift over in our IRC channel here was mentioning over in the chat. Yes, we've already got an arrow system, and that is our tracking skill. And those who have used it extensively, I've used tracking. Most people who have tried the Ninja template have tracking to some extent, at least up to 20% if they're not human, 40% if they aren't. And it is quite effective. It is ugly, like Vampira touched on. And it's clunky for those who have not used it extensively. But you can track the player down pretty easily, especially the stealthers, is where it really comes in handy. Because stealth or not, they're going to show up on the screen to you as an not show up, but you're going to be able to track them down. So stealthing, we have an arrow system. Unfortunately, the way it works is you're not going to want to target more than one person. So otherwise you can have 5 arrows all over the screen, which is nonsense. But adding that to the combat is a bad idea. The targeting system in general, I believe. Let them use let's use these underused skills such as tracking. Not let them go off into the way to die like cattle put out to the pasture. Like some of the other skills like herding and taste identification. Tracking's got its uses. Let's keep it in the game, and that's where I stand as far as the arrows on the screen. There's somebody you're targeting.
Nice point. And yes, I have to agree. If tracking's pretty much good the way it is, don't bother. I was just kind of wondering, just how it worked, because I never use it. I have never used it, as a matter of fact, and so I wasn't quite sure about that, and that does help the players out there who do not know a lot about tracking, just like myself, even though I played the game for 8 years, what tracking's all about. So, well, let's see, and speaking of targeting, there's several different targeting ways, I guess we could indicate what's targeted. I mean, you could have a little arrow above you point down at this person, like in some games that you play where they have the arrow over their head point down at them. I mean, that's one way you could do targeting, and then you have the little circle around their feet. That's another way you could do targeting, and I think they call that splat, whenever you put a little circle down at their feet. And then, of course, you have the little brackets and everything else. brackets is definitely not the way to go. I mean, brackets looks like something that come out of the 80s. So, I mean, we really need to, whenever we're going to go with a targeting system, we need to go with something that looks more modern, something that looks like, it's up to par with today's gaming standards, what you would see in a new game. For example, and I don't care what the excuse is, coding-wise, you need to go with something that'll get in there, if you have to change out, get out a whole code and rewrite it so you can put this in to make it appealing to the players that are, that want to use it, I think you ought to go ahead and do that. Because, I mean, the way I look at it right now, this is my argument about the whole targeting system. It's not something that is vital. It's an add-on. So it's not, while it may be a great addition to the game, it's not vital. We've been playing without targeting reticles for about 8 years now. So if you're going to put it in, please, whatever you do, make a good impression. So that way, people will have a desire to actually use it rather than go over there and turn it off. Because I guarantee you, if we ended up with the prototype that was shown to us earlier, and that was going to be put in, guarantee you, the majority, more than half of the people, would have turned that off. So I'm really curious to see what the finished product is going to look like with regards to the reticle, because I know I wouldn't use the reticle if it looked like the bracket. If it's anything with brackets, I can tell you right now I'm not going to use it. So, I mean, I don't want to see brackets. Brackets is like 80-ish, and I'm not in the 80s. I'm in the year 2000. Like that show, in the year 2000. But anyways, I think that was Conan O'Brien. But, Vampiri, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to, does anybody remember when Party System came in and it was the new thing, and because when UO was young, there was no parties, you just went with everybody and hoped everybody would live. When they put that in, it was supposed to be the brand new thing, and everybody was like, oh yay, we have the Party System finally, we can keep track of each other's bars. Well, I had one guild member, Lance, he would use the Party System with me, and he learned to cross-heal because there was this bug between our two characters that if one of us died, the other person, client crashed in UO. So I'm really hoping they're working on that targeting system.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping the same thing, because, I mean, I really do think it's the right way to go, but if you're going to introduce it, you got to do it right the first time. I mean, if you're going to do it, better do it right the first time, because I guarantee you, once somebody turns it off, I guarantee you, they're not going to turn it back on ever, more than likely, unless they're doing a reinstall. So you definitely want to make a first good impression when you introduce a new feature into the game, because it's going to be very important if you want to sell whatever and get a good response for whatever work you put into the game. Go ahead, Spider-Bite.
I think basically, Vampira, I'll real quick touch on your concern, and that is as far as the crashing goes or client bugs and that sort of thing, the fact that they announced a prototype of it and they didn't announce it or didn't declare it part of a future publish yet gives me at least the confidence that they're going to play with it a lot before throwing it into the game. So hopefully, I could be wrong, but hopefully that kind of thing won't be an issue. Of course, it's always a possibility. You never know. As far as the targeting, as far as how it should appear on the screen goes, I'm great with the person being, hued in red to me. Not their name, but their whole body and their mount. That's great. That still works for me. What I'd like to see is on the health bars. I want to see that health bar go red like that. The whole thing hued when I'm attacking somebody. So that and it may be as far as the party system goes, or not the party system. Never mind. Discard that. When the rest of them remain the same blue or whatever color it is, gray. But But when I attack somebody, I want that health bar to go red. I want to know who I'm attacking, because there have been so many times where I've targeted and chased somebody around the screen only to look down and realize I'm accidentally hitting a guild mate or something silly like that, because I targeted the wrong person. As everybody who PvPs knows, things get mixed up real quick, and it's very simple to target the wrong person. And in 2D especially, many people look alike, especially on the shards where people, are dressed down and not wearing uniforms or anything like that. So I would absolutely like to see the health bars affected by the targeting system.
Very good point. So basically what I understand is that you're kind of wanting a system where you can basically have whatever curse or target bar that you have targeted or that you have your mouse over, that it basically highlights, right? Is that something you're asking for, Spider-Bite, just for a little bit of clarification?
Yeah, when I highlight over somebody, I want the health bar to reflect that, because that's much easier to view when somebody's running around the screen, especially if I've targeted and flagged them. I want that health bar to turn red, meaning that's a player that I'm attacking.
Well, really, I don't understand why you would actually click on the actual character rather than the, status bar.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I want to target switch quite frequently, and in heavy combat or heavy PvP, you switch targets pretty frequently, and call me dumb, call me forgetful, but a lot of times, like I said, if I click on a player's character or on their health bar, sometimes I'll click on the wrong health bar. I want to make sure I'm on the right one. I don't want to make it too stupid, but at the same time, what I was getting at was I want to make the targeting system compatible with the health bars. Sometimes you don't pull down the health bar from somebody, or you can't, and they just happen to run by you, and you have no choice but to target their character or die. So, and then that way that would pop their health bar up is what I'm getting at, when you do have to click on the actual character and not the health bars.
Yeah, see, and that's something that brings up a very good point, because in the future, I would imagine that whenever you click on somebody, because the way it is currently, you have to click on them and then you have to drag, to get a health bar to come up currently. But in the future, what I think a lot of players will want is that you click on them, they stay targeted until you click on something else, or you click off of them, somewhere else on the screen off of them. They stay targeted. And then and whenever you click on them, it also brings up their health bar automatically, rather than having to, drag and drop, a health bar or whatever. I would very much like to see something like that, and that would make my life a little bit easier when I'm trying to, target somebody that's running at the speed of light, and I cannot even, get my cursor on him to pull up his light bar. That's a problem that I always have whenever it comes to PvP, because I'm always trying to get my cursor on them, and they're moving so fast I can't even get my cursor on them to drag, the health bar off them so I can even target them in the first place. So, that's the problem I'm always having. So, yeah, I'm definitely seeing good things coming out of this already, just thinking about it. Chris, let's go ahead and hear from you.
Well, there's one thing I'd like to make a different point. I have to admit that I'm not really a hunter or fighter. I don't do PvP. I rarely do PVM. I'm mostly a crafter. But what I know from my experience is this will take another skill, real life skill thing out of PvP, because if you make it much easier to target somebody if he's running, you make it more easy to automatically, or I hope you know what I mean, to fight somebody and get him targets more easy. So I think the PvP players, the hardcore PvP players, will just complain, understandably, I think, that you took with the new targeting system, you take some of the real life based skill, the PvP skill, out of the game again.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you bring up there, Chris, because like you're saying, and I'll just reiterate what you just said, is basically whenever you click on players, it's going to make it a lot easier to target them. Whereas before you had to first get a hold of their toolbar so you could target them. So it's going to make it easier to get a target on somebody and it's actually going to make battles a lot faster because I mean that's one good thing about running all over the place. It's kind of hard to lock in on you. So that's a very good point that you bring up there, Chris. So let's hear from Vampiria now. She's a PvPer, so I know she's going to have something to say probably.
I don't know about this targeting system. I mean, we have to try it, of course. But I don't think that the PvPers are going to like it at all. I mean, it's bulky. I see it probably getting in the way of other targets because when you're on a field and there's 30 people there, you're constantly switching targets and doing mass spells and doing bad things. But I just don't see it flying. I don't see it working. And yes, I really hope the bugs are worked out of it because I'd really hate to be losing fights because, I just cliented.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing they can always do, and we haven't had yet a chance, we haven't really had much of a chance to actually test it yet and everything. I'm reading the IRC, by the way, and I'm laughing at some of the things that people are talking about. But we haven't had yet a chance to actually test it out. And my guess is if something, for some odd reason, gets overlooked whenever targeting, and there's like a huge drawback, or it creates problems with, you know, like your scenario where you have 30 people on the field. And I'm sure if it creates some kind of problem where it makes it an inconvenience to where, you know, when you have multiple target bars up, that they will just simply withhold that feature from the publish and maybe push you off to publish 41. I don't think there's anything that says they have to actually ship it in publish 40 or the next publish, whichever publish that may be. I've heard so many different numbers. Some say, well, you know, are we on 41? Some say we're not on 41. I don't even know what publish we're on anymore, if you want to know the truth. I just know that hopefully, you know, they won't, you know, push out an unfinished product that hasn't been fully tested. I mean, because you really do want to make a good impression with whatever you ship out that has not been in the game originally, because you want to have people use it on a regular basis. Now, I also want to point out that this is not simply for PVM. This is not simply for PvP. This is also for the targeting of containers, corpses, and other things like that. So, all you people who are just wondering, you know, is this just simply for PvP to make it their lives easier or whatever? I don't think so. It's for a lot of things. And I can just see in the future, in tutorials or whatever, you know, that something like a targeting cursor coming up on containers, like say, you know, open up this container during the tutorials and stuff like that. I'm kind of curious if they're even thinking about maybe using something like this in containers. And by the way, I just been pointing out that this next publish is going to be publish 40, so I don't know why we see a lot of, you know, don't support 41 or against 41 when that's a whole nother publish away. But go ahead, Vampiria.
They have a targeting system in UO right now. We're all aware of that, right? It's, you've got next target and then target cycle. So you push whatever key and it cycles through the targets of people, including your own guild members, and monsters around a screen. And you just keep cycling until you get, you know, the right target, which isn't bad. And what it does is it highlights the little, you know, the little line underneath the life bar underneath your feet, which is easy to see and it works, right?
Yeah. But, you know, somebody like me, I'd like to add a little more eye candy to it, put a little splat around the feet. But no worries about that. What I'm being told, or what I've been told over on the forums is that, you know, there's some kind of limitations as to, you know, 2D and everything, that there isn't going to be a splat at the feet or whatever. So I guess it's going to be one of those wait and see type of things to see whether or not it's going to be a splat, whether it's going to be brackets still in some form of fashion or what. I'm really curious to see it. I can't wait to see it. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be one of those situations where you either use it or you don't. And if you don't, whether you're going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to PvP, and so everybody's going to have to learn to adjust. I'm sure it's going to be something like that. And by the way, before I go over to Spider Bite, I want to introduce Deadeye, who just come in a little while ago, and about 8 minutes ago. And so, Deadeye, are you around with us? And could you say hello to everybody out there?
Hello, everybody out there in Sorry, yes, DJ Deadeye. Sorry I didn't get in here quite on time. I was dealing with a little technical problem with one of our DJs. Try to keep things rolling good on your radio for you. So anyway, I'm glad to be here.
Yep, and we very much appreciate what you do for your radio. So with that said, go ahead, Spider.
Boomhauer for the win. Welcome, Deadeye. Anyways, I was going to touch on a subject, or on something you mentioned earlier, and that is all the hoopla about the Pub 41 coming out and everybody ranting and raving and creating banners and avatars and everything against it. We haven't even gotten Pub 40 yet, and you're right. You know, if I could reach even 3 people out on UO Hall that are ready to cancel their subscriptions, get a grip. Wait. It could be June before we even get Pub 40. I know they're talking April, but let's be realistic. We know how the schedules work. Let's wait and see. And the same goes for the targeting. Nobody's complaining really about the targeting. I don't think it's going to affect people that much. If it did, when it was announced, the UO Hall would have been flooded with threads about it. That thread died a long time ago. So I don't think the targeting is going to affect people that much in any case, crafter, PvP, or PVM, or whatever. But as far as Pub 41 goes, yes, and I would love to, and not being a spokesperson or anything, but in my own opinion, geez, lay off Pub 41. It's a long ways away. Let's see what Pub 40 comes out with first. Then you can, and wait till the other publishers get to the test center first, especially before flying off the handle and causing some great, rebellion like they're doing over in France with the kids getting fired without any notice within 2 years, that sort of thing. That was all I wanted to say.
Yep. And let's see, yeah, like I said, like you said, or should I say, just wait. Just, wait and see. I mean, there's no point in going ahead and saying, well, I'm quitting. La la la. It's yeah. Go ahead, Ben Perry.
Actually, a lot of my guild members, when they were reading the proficiencies and stuff, they had a little riot in our TeamSpeak, and I know they're listening right now. So I'm in trouble when I get out of here, but a few of them had a riot and said, oh, we're quitting, we're not going to put up with this anymore. And these are the same people that, Pub 16, AOS, ML, they all had little hissy fits, left for 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever the case may be, sold off their stuff and come back and go, wow, that was really silly of me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it happens with other people, but with the PvPers, they have the biggest temper tantrums. Has anybody else noticed that? They all like, oh, it's not going my way, that's it, I quit. I'm taking my ball and going home. I'm so dead when I log into the game.
Well, I can personally attest to about back when I was a PvPer back in the day before Ages of Shadow. I can remember spending my days yelling at the screen because I died. But that's what made the game so much fun. Sitting there yelling at the screen, cussing up a storm because some player just whooped your butt in PvP or something like that. And yes, I'm guilty of that. Yes, a lot of people was like, well, I never knew you had that side to you. And yeah, I'm a cusser. Let's see, Deadeye, go ahead.
Yeah, with regards to the new targeting system, this is what I would recommend to everybody based on my years of experience with UO, is, we really haven't got it out here and got out here and worked with it yet. So I would suggest everyone keep an open mind. We've got a new whiz-banger gizmo out here that we can work with, and let's go out there and keep an open mind, try to have a positive attitude, and try it out and see if it works. It just might,
Yeah, you never know. You might actually like it, and then you'd be like, well, damn, why was I acting this way, and you actually be turning around and kind of look like a fool and say, oh, well, I'm sorry I made all this, hollering and fussing and everything over nothing, and now I actually like it. So, I mean, just wait. I mean, that's all I'm asking you guys. Go ahead, Spider Bite.
Well, I was going to comment on Vampira's comments. Basically, it's not just the PvP community that's crying right now. With Pub 41 being announced, not announced, but the potential ideas for Pub 41, I'm seeing more of the PVM players and everybody else complaining more than the PvPers. There's a good mix of the PvPers in there, I'm sure. What gets me is I wish they would take these developers' ideas when they announce them and put them back on UO.com, whether that's the old myuo.com forums and just for developer feedback or whatever, because I have a huge feeling that the people who are yelling and screaming the most don't even play anymore. And I would really like to see the MyUOs come back so that we could get the feedback from the people who are actually in the game, playing the game. That would wipe out probably 50% of the Chicken Littles that are on UO Hall, for example, that are crying, I'm going to quit, I'm going to do this, or this is wrong, and then creating banners and the signatures and all that other crap. That's my 2 cents. I really like to see more control, like Star Wars Galaxies Sony has, where unless you have an active account, you're not going to be posting on forums. At least you're going to be there as a guest, and you're not going to have any sway in the developers' opinions. And I hate the idea that Stratix is open to the public, and unless you you don't have to have an account, rather, an active account in UO to state your opinions. You could be just spouting crap to the entire viewers or readers, and I know the developers don't take as much of that into account, or take all that into account, but I just hate people screaming on soapboxes that have no input or no right to give input. That was my 2 cents, and my soapbox is being pulled from underneath me.
Yep, it most indeed is. Get off that soapbox, my turn. Anyways, just to kind of point out something, and I actually have a disagreement with you. I think it's actually good that developers actually take input from those who do not play the game, because you have to keep in mind that the developers are also trying to appeal to the players who once played the game, who no longer play the game, who are thinking about coming back to the game. They're also at the same time trying to appeal to the newer players who have not yet played the game, who are thinking about playing the game. So, if you cut them out just simply because they do not have an active subscription account, you're simply ignoring what problems that people hated about the game that forced them into quit, or that made them want to quit, or made them quit. So, at the same time, you have to keep that in mind, because, if you just cast their opinions out the door like it's nothing because they just simply don't have an active UO subscription, then you're just totally doing away with potential clients, for your business, who would possibly come back and play the game again if there was something to make the game better for them. So you have to keep that in mind whenever you go casting out the negative opinions. There's always going to be negative opinions, and at the end of the day, the way I look at it is that most of the people who post over on Stratix and everything, they're simply going to be posting whenever there's a complaint or that they are unhappy with something. The rest of the time, you're not even going to hear from them more than likely. I mean, if I wasn't unhappy about some of the things in Ultima Online, I don't even think I'd be doing this talk show, to be honest. So, there's always things you can talk about, and there's always something that, every player here, whether you play the game or not, you're unhappy about something in the game, I would imagine. If you're totally happy with every aspect of the game, I don't know what to tell you. Because, I mean, I don't know of anybody, quite frankly, who is happy with every aspect of the game. So, with that said, I kind of lost track here. I think Town Drunk was next. Go ahead, Town Drunk.
I was just going to throw something in there. We actually discussed this having a current game players only in the forums. Why not compromise? Why not have Stratix make a particular forum within all of the forums, within the greater forum group, have a particular forum that the only way you can access the forum, the only way you can read it or post in it, is if you have an active account. They could tie it to IP addresses. They could tie it. I mean, you can only have one Stratix account in this particular forum. Only one per IP account, for example, or whatever. If you don't like that, you could base it on accounts. So what if somebody has 15 accounts? The point is, I think it would be kind of interesting to see at least a forum within the greater forums of paying gamers only, just to see what they have to say without the input of all the rabble-rousers. Because, let's face it, how many WoW developers or how many WoW recruiters are there on Stratix throwing in red herrings in our forums, or from any other game? I'd like to have a private forum for people who have stuck with the game through thick and thin. If they abandon the game, go to hell. I'm not interested in what they have to say, because they obviously abandoned the game and went to something else.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from. It's, a question of loyalty. Where does your loyalty lie? If you're not loyal to the game or the series or whatever else, then, why should you have an opinion? But anyways, let's see. Chris, go ahead.
Well, I have to say I strongly disagree with that. First of all, from my perspective, if somebody has something to say, if this is valid, if he has an argument, it doesn't matter if he still plays or not. The quality of an argument should be valued by the argument itself, not from whom it comes from. This is my perspective. You have a lot of veteran players, and I think one thing I miss a lot is common sense. You should try to value arguments, to value stuff. We don't. I don't think Ultima Online is really a game where the mass of players vote if they want to have something or not. So there's a lot of impact to all this stuff, and you have to listen to arguments and to all this kind of stuff. I talked to the developers intensely at the town hall meet last year. And from my perspective, they are very much interested in different perspectives, but they are not interested in who is doing most impact, whose opinion is the most representative. And one more thing, even the Stratix forums, for example, I think this is not really a balanced view of Ultima Online players. I know a lot of players who are not forum readers, who are not active. So you have the guys there who know how to put their points. World of Warcraft has multi-language forums. You have German, French, Spanish forums. All this for the Ultima Online community, you have one English-speaking, so you miss a lot of people who are not able to express themselves. So I think this discussion is not leading far.
Yeah, you bring up a very valid point because, I mean, really, if you think about it, a lot of players over in Germany, they're not well represented over here in the United States or over in Ultima Online community because, because they just maybe don't know how to speak English or don't know how to type English or whatever else. So, I mean, just as he pointed out, maybe they can't express themselves because of the language barrier. You also have the Japanese community over here in Asia, and the Korean community, and the Chinese community who may not know English or whatever, or may not know how to type English. So, they're not being well represented for the most part. I mean, I know they have their own community manager or whatever, or somebody that reports to Electronic Arts over here in the United States, but, overall, they're just not quite well represented as to what their feelings are or concerns are about the game. So you have to keep in mind that this is an international game that spans the world, all in different parts and different languages. And, it's not fair to say that, Stratix has the, biggest impact or whatever else, and that, other communities in different parts of the world go underserved. I mean, I just don't think that's right, and that's why, one of the reasons we wanted to have Chris with us here today, to hear from the other side of the Atlantic, from over from Germany, because I know they don't get quite well represented often. So, go ahead, Ben Puri. I know you've been waiting a while.
Well, as for the different languages, it's very easy for a site to have a translator put in, and you choose what language you read it in. And I mean that there's several companies that offer that. And as for the non-active people posting what they believe, well, that's great. They can post it, but I think that it would be more fair if, like back in the old days, it was tied to your UO account when you posted on the boards, and that it showed you're an active member, you're a non-active member. Right? You're an active player. So that when EA or whoever's reading it is going down that list and going, okay, this person's actually tested the new publish, this person is just pretending they've tested it. I mean, that would be a lot more fair to the community. Given EA is out there trying to get more of a user base, and I can respect that, but they should know the difference of who is speaking, because do you want to lose your current active user base for people who probably won't come back and they're just there to say whatever they want to say? And as for the people that are posting against Publish 40, Publish 41, or whatever it is, I think a lot of the people that use Stratix are newer players, like the last 3 years. I think a lot of the older people, like, I've been here 7 years, I don't post on Stratix. Yeah, shoot me now. Why? Because I don't think it should have changed hands. And you go on there and I just don't think that we're even read some of the times. Like, my husband, he posted on there lots, and he ended up getting banned when he asked about our account names being changed when there was a problem. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that we're being represented. I don't think the old school, the players that have stuck it out for 7 years through God knows how many changes, are being represented by anybody at this point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I can understand some of your arguments and points. Because at the end of the day, it's not controlled by Electronic Arts, and so therefore you have to adhere to a whole different set of policies, and therefore you're subject to all kinds of different people, because they're volunteers and they might have an opinion about you, or they may not like you for whatever reason, and so no telling no telling what there is, and so at the end of the day, you don't get well represented, and so I'm kind of at a loss for words, but I do want to point out something that, I'm being a little distracted, by the way, and that's why I'm kind of losing my train of thought. But there is something, a lot of people have been vouching for some kind of in-game polling system or in-game voting system. And the thing about that is that, the way I think, if we're going to have something like that, because I know Beta Draconia from BOD's RS.net or whatever, I think he was petitioning or trying to get a rally for an in-game voting system. But the only problem with that is that we should have if we're going to have something like that, it should be on Test Center only. You know why? Because if you're going on Test Center, you're actually on Test Center, you're actually playing around with some new features and everything, you can actually get then, developers should be soliciting feedback on Test Center. And that's what they should be doing it in-game through polling systems and stuff like that. I think that would be a great way to get some feedback. Because, I mean, the people on Test Center are actually there, hopefully, testing it out. I mean, just simply logging into the game, you can at least point on an NPC and see the targeting cursor for the first time. So, I mean, I think that's something they should do if they're going to implement an in-game voting system. But the only problem to that is that a lot of people are going to be logging in with multiple accounts and trying to alter the voting. It's kind of like a stock market then, because, whoever controls the most shares or the most accounts then has the greater, impact or voice or control over whatever, direction the game goes in. So, I mean, that's one reason I think the developers have pretty much held off on that. But if they wanted to do something like that, that's one way they could go about it. Go ahead, Crest.
Just that you mentioned the tech center, this is something which works very well, actually. As I said before, it's the argument itself, it's the quality of the argument. And I know, for example, that after Age of Shadows hit in and the Public 25 was on Test Center, there was some European guys, some may know the Guild of IC, which then went to Drachenfels, and they were playing a very big impact on the development of Patch 25. And this was both sided influence. So they had contact to the developers, they tested stuff, and so they both worked together. And this is something where players really could make a difference, but this is not how many players they are. It's how much effort will you invest in the game and how are your arguments, and then you also have to consider that the developers have other arguments, and then they will convert to some changes as well, which happened back then. So this is something which worked very well.
Well, see, you bring up a good point, and somebody else over here in IRC, Dor, she brought up a very good point as well. She said, well, if you went with a system like that, where you solicited feedback on new features being added into the game on Test Center, well, then you're going back to the whole system of, that you be an active player or an active subscriber of the game in order to, give your opinion about something. So it goes back to that again. But, the good thing about this, and the way I think that would actually be kind of good, a good compromise, because then you're asking players about a feature for the game, that is immediate, or that's pretty much around the corner. So, I mean, I don't think the players who do not currently play, that they're going to have any gripe or concern about some other new feature being added to the game. I mean, I don't think they should on something like that. I think, however, that players who no longer play the game should still have the opportunity to voice their opinions as to why they do not no longer play the game. I think that is the difference between the two arguments, which I pointed out earlier, is that, currently the people who are playing the game and are satisfied with the game, they should be able to let the developers know, what they think about new features that's being introduced into the game. Whereas the old players should be able to voice their opinions about what they don't like about the game or what they didn't like about the game that caused them to quit. Because then, the developers could take the two different sets of information and work around that, depending on, this person didn't like the game for so-and-so reason, well, we can maybe modify that or alter it, and maybe they'll appease them and make them come back into the game. So, that's two different ways to tackle the problem, two different problems. Let's see, I guess that's going to pretty much do that for this topic and everything. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic and everything. And it's been something I poured a lot of sweat and tears into. Yes, that's right. And as some of you guys very well may know, I've been working on compiling a list of scripters across many different various shards over the last month. And so, if you noticed, if you went over to UORadio.com/UO/scriptures locations .htm, I think you would notice that I had like a huge list, a movie on there and everything, with about 67 different locations in which these scripters were operating. It was like a huge, massive operation going on. And based on what I saw and everything, I mean, because I went back, just a day or two ago, and it seems to be that the developers are indicating that something has changed over on the forums as well. It seems like Wilkie's alluding to the fact that something has changed. So I went around looking at all these locations, and sure enough, guess what? I'm not seeing any more scripters and everything. I'm kind of wondering, have they banned these, scripters, or have they, put in a new system, or what? Or have the scripters just laid low, or what's going on with the scripters? But I can tell you right now, as of right now, they are no longer operating. So I'm kind of wondering, do y'all think that's a good thing, bad thing, that the EA is taking action or looking into this, or what? I mean, because obviously they're doing something about this by the looks of it. So if I could get some feedback from you guys as to what y'all think about that, that would be great. I actually think it's great that they're actually cracking down on this, because, I mean, it's going to solve future economic problems and everything. But, the only one thing I have a concern about, what are they going to do now? Let's say they did ban all the scriptures and everything, and they got rid of them. I can tell you two things. First of all, we need to address the economic damage to the game as a result of this. Secondly, how can we prevent this from happening again? Third, they'll be back. So, I mean, these scripters, if they are truly banned or whatever, they'll be back. So don't give up. Don't give up hope. It just, takes some time, I would imagine, to, address these kind of things. Hopefully, EA will be looking for some things to address this in the future. But, Ben Puri, did you have something to say about that?
Well, on LS, we have probably shouldn't say this, but we have a frostwood tree in front of one of my houses. And they're still coming. And it's, they banned 2 of them. There's still, 2 more to replace them, or maybe it's they're getting a new accounts, or I'm not sure. I don't think this is ever going to end with scripters.
Well, if you could do me a favor, wherever this location is, wherever these illegal operations are taking place, if you could just send me an email, and this goes for everybody out there listening, if you could just send me an email at viceroy@uoradio.com, or just ICQ me at 5524729 with any of these operations that you see taking place, where these scripting operations. I'll go in and actually look at this, and I'll actually put it up on that website, and hopefully maybe, one of them developers will stroll on by that website and have a look at it and maybe look into it. Deadeye, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's good that they're actually getting out here and doing something about it. What I think is incredibly bad, though, is the fact that it literally had to be strangled out of them to get them to do something for it. I mean, you can stand there and watch these guys 5 seconds, 0.68 seconds, and tell exactly what they're doing. It clearly violates the rules of conduct for the game, and that they didn't do anything about it. I'd like to hear an explanation of why it went that way. Is it a money thing, or is it about the fact these people are paying for accounts to do this, or what? I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, I know I'm going to get some flack over there, so I'm already getting a little bit over here in the RC. Supposedly I'm a jerk because I put this list out there, of potential scriptures and everything. But, the one thing I do whenever I go out and check out these places, I don't just take people's word. I actually run my little 2 feet out there and check and make my own observations about it. And I'm not saying these people are scripters, but what I'm saying at the end of the day is, hey, look, this is very highly suspicious activity occurring here. Please, somebody look into this, and let's keep an eye on this and see what's going on. I'm not saying these people are scripters and they need to be banned. I'm not saying anything of that. I'm saying these people over here are doing highly suspicious activities and very repetitive of what they're doing. And it's pretty much obvious in some cases, and I'm simply giving my observations on whenever I go out to these locations as to what I'm seeing. And whether people agree with me or not as to whether or not they're scripters, that's up to the reader. Whoever reads it, that's pretty much up to them. But what I have noticed is that, believe it or not, some of these people who I've actually listed up on this website, which I've been compiling from many different folks. I do want to thank all the folks out there who emailed me a list, by the way. If you've submitted one of these potential scriptures, want to thank you because you're doing a great service to the community, in my personal opinion. However, I want to also say, that at the same time, whenever I go out to these locations, I'm looking for several different things. And I've actually noticed that some of these locations that I had listed had houses picked up and moved. I mean, they just got up and moved. I wonder why. And I wonder how they found out, because they probably was reading that website. Anyways, Ben Pruitt, let's hear from you. Am I a jerk?
No. I wanted to say that some of the people, it's in front of my house, so we kill a lot of the people that show up at that tree, and some of them do answer. Some of them are actually there. They are not all scripters, and, we loot their body, we res them, and say, have a nice day. But the ones that don't answer, we know purposely that they're doing something. And, I mean, this has been going on for at least 2 years. There's a place also behind our house, in front of our house and behind our house, where we have a macro miner, and she's been coming there for 2 years. We have called on her. You can't kill her because as soon as anybody shows up on the screen, she's out of there. We found her house and camped that and camped that so she couldn't recall with her script going. And so she moved, and I mean, it doesn't seem to end. And we did call the GMs, and we said, this person is scripting, can you do something? And on top of that, the one time that we actually did get to kill her, she had a bugged bag on her, so she was carrying 20,000 iron ore on her. We even have a picture of it from, I think it was 2 years ago or something, of her doing this, and we even emailed it to EA. So, yeah, something needs to be done, because it's really annoying. My house is very popular just because of the resources around it.
Yeah, and see, that's a very good point. See, a lot of times, and from my own personal experiences, I would go out and report these potential scripters that I would, it's not me to say, who gets banned or whatever. That's EA's call. If they think they're doing some illegal activities, they're going to be the ultimate and sole judge at the end of the day as to what they do with that person. They're either going to let them go, ignore it, or take action against them. So, I mean, it's not for me to say, and I want to clear that up. However, I'm not saying, everybody should report to me because I'm not with EA. All I'm saying is we need to, work together as a community to ensure the security of our game. Or otherwise, Electronic Arts, because right now Electronic Arts does not have the means, from the looks of things, to address this problem by themselves. Because, if they did, they would already have some kind of programming code in there to prevent this kind of stuff from happening. What I'm saying is if you spot one of these activities and you report it to a GM and a GM does not take action against them, or a GM can't do nothing about them, that's when you should be reporting something like this to a community effort to, say, hey, look, I reported this person, nothing's got done about it. Because then we can actually go together as a community, go up to Electronic Arts, and hopefully bring to their attention and say, hey, look, we have all these different reports that we've reported time after time, and yet we're not getting a satisfactory solution, and we know, that something is going on here. Could you please look into it? And the more people that get behind something like this, the more of a chance Electronic Arts, or more of a potential it has for Electronic Arts to either catch wind of it, or secondly, do something about it. Because, I mean, they're all over the place, working on so many different things, and they have to really spend their time wisely. And I would imagine have to, have permission to look into something like this. But anyways, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, I just wanted to go in a different direction. On other project, I was working with on a solution we were running a free shard, if I'm allowed to say that. And the problem with the scripters is there are special possibilities, mining, special skills, or special resources you can gain easily with scripting. I know that there are scripts for taming and all this stuff, but these are working only on illegal third-party programs. So what we were trying to do was to just change the procedures of getting resources to something more difficult to script. So you can't do this. We had invented a new bot system. We had some stuff. So basically, if you as to my knowledge, it's not a big problem that there are scripters farming dragons. So this uses some skill, and we had been working on some skills, some mechanisms to make the resource gathering somehow real life skill based. So this would solve the scripting problem itself.
Very interesting. The only thing I see, and what I've been noticing is that a lot of these scripters have been doing this, and what they've been doing is, either farming monsters, like for example, ice fiends, dread spiders, and I think those are the two most popular creatures in which people farm. I think the other thing in which they've been doing is, scripting, mining, and lumberjacking and stuff like that. I would imagine they don't do the lumberjacking as often as the mining, because I think you can actually fit more ore into your backpack than you can lumber. I mean, logs and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't think the scripting of lumberjacking is quite as rampant as mining is. But I would imagine it's taking place somewhere out there. Another thing is that a lot of people who are script mining, for the most part, they're taking these back to a place and dumping it off into the house, like a house, and dumping it into these secure containers and getting upwards. I've seen upwards to 20 million stones sitting in these containers in some cases, even higher than that. But what they're doing, it's then smelting all this, and you're talking about millions and millions of ingots coming into circulation. And what they do is take these ingots, turn them into, I think it's buckler shields or something, and then selling them to the NPCs. Now that we, crack down on some of these scripters, I would imagine, what we need to do is take away that very incentive for them to go out and, be able to sell these shadow bucklers for more than you can get for a Baylorite. That just doesn't make sense when you can sell a buckler, a shadow buckler, or a shadow heater shield for more than you can a Baylorite heater shield. And I think that's what they're doing, if I remember correctly. And so that needs to be plugged up, that needs to be looked into, that needs to be addressed, because otherwise they're going to just come back and repeat it somewhere else, and this time somewhere else that we may not even know about, maybe in the far most remote region. But another thing I found interesting about these scripting activities is that they were taking place only in Trammel, for the most part, to my knowledge. No reports ever came in for malice or anything else. And that's another thing that I don't like about these large land masses. It gives people the opportunity to go out into some remote region, that's hard or barely seldom gets visited by players to carry out these type of activities. You have Ishner, you have T2A, you have, Trammel, Feluca, all kinds of places, malice, for them to do all this stuff, man. Go ahead, John Drunk.
Yeah, I was just going to address a few things that have been going on in IRC as this conversation has evolved. I made the statement that the only serious way to address scripting is to ban all eBay sales. Now, I know a lot of people don't agree with that for various reasons, and there are some legitimate people that don't script, that use eBay, either casually or even all the time. I mean, But, so I realize that there are valid reasons against this, but having said that, it is the most efficient way to attack scripting. And I'm not talking about going after necessarily people who actually sell the items, although you can, but even the people who buy the items. All EA has to do is put up a few items on eBay and people buy them, bam, you get banned as soon as you buy it and go collect it. Yes, I realize that people can make fake accounts, and I realize that all eBay sales aren't on eBay. Hey, I know how to use Google just like anybody else does. It's not hard to find every broker that's out there. They try to get their names out there because that's what they're doing. And I'm not just talking about brokers, but anyone. Look, again, I realize it may not be the solution everybody wants, but hey, you're never going to get rid of exploiters, and that's what scripters are. They're just exploiters. They're exploiting a system, and that is an aggressive, efficient way to get rid of a large share of them. You won't ever get rid of it. There's nothing anyone can do to totally get rid of it. Nothing. Even whatever it is they're planning on doing here coming up, whatever they were talking about, scripting is on its way out. I've heard that before. I've heard that a lot. It never has gone anywhere, and it never will. You will never totally stamp it out. However, banning outside the game sales for real dollars, or euros if you're in Europe, cuts out a huge incentive for people to script. And that's a fact. Whether you like it or not is totally irrelevant. It's still a fact.
Yeah, well, the only problem with that whole analogy or that whole solution is that even if you do go after, I just quickly want to put this out there. Like you said, you're never going to be able to fully eliminate the problem. But, the thing is, you can definitely deter it. But when you deter it, it's simply going to give rise to the black marketers. And they're just simply going to, gouge everybody for whatever, they can get. So as a result of a black market, the creation of a black market, prices are just simply going to go up. And then it's going to be someone with a monopoly. And I can tell you already who's going to be the person who would have the monopoly over a black market in Ultima Online. And it's going to be a company like IGE, which is a multi-million-dollar company based overseas over in Hong Kong. So, that's all you're going to simply do is trade, switch hands from, multiple different brokers where there's competition amongst them to where you just simply give a monopoly over to a huge multi-million-dollar company overseas. And, yeah. Anyhow, go ahead, Ben Puri.
You were saying how you didn't get many locations for Felucia for your scripters. Well, we walk by a scripter and we try to take it out. We don't need to report that. We're going to try to kill it. Maybe I have the compulsion to kill. I don't know. And as for banning eBay sales, speaking as somebody who uses eBay, wow, that would be really harsh. If the player base would support, not companies like Vice was saying, not huge companies, and support the people that are playing UO legitimately, maybe, the problem wouldn't be there. Boycott these huge industries and push them out of the game. There's your scripter.
Yep. And, because, they don't have any problems like the legitimate people do. But, the thing is, I won't deny it. I am a broker myself, so I'm a little bit biased about that, but quite frankly, I could care less, because even if it was bannable, hey, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire in Ultima Online. I'm just simply going to sit on all this gold, and guess what? I'm going to be set for life in Ultima Online. Won't ever have to worry about it. I'm not saying I would break the rules, but I'm just saying you're just simply going to keep me with all this gold, and I'm just going to be happy as I could ever be. But go ahead, Town Drunk.
I was just going to say something. Vampiria said something very succinctly, and that is, there is a choice. You don't have to take drastic measures. You don't have to introduce new code. The truth is, the reason we have this problem, the reason is because the community itself allows it to happen. We are our own worst enemies. We support these people. I remember an unnamed, shall remain unnamed, broker some months ago got into a little snit with a bunch of people on Stratix, and, it was a big deal. And I'm sure that they lost some business over that. Yet, now, and it had nothing to do with scripting, by the way, but look, we know who these people are, don't we? And if we care so much about what's going on with scripting, why, as a community, are we allowing them to keep us beholden to them? And why are we giving them the incentive? I mean, it's like enabling an alcoholic, and we're the alcoholic, and we're also the enablers. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Vampiria really hit the nail on the head. We have the power ourselves. We don't have to throw it up to the dev team to take care of it for us, because the truth is, we can handle it a lot more effectively.
Very good point, and very good opinion as well. Go ahead, Vampiria.
It's true, though. These companies on eBay selling God knows how much money. Like, you just go look at it. The IGE or whatever you mentioned, Vice. They're out there, and as Vice said, he's a broker. I'm a broker too, and no, I'm sorry, I don't have millions in UO, and I mean, I barely get by, but it really, really sucks when you're trying to sell 5 million gold on a shard and you can't, because there's like 100 million by these guys who don't play UO, who hire people to script all day long in certain locations to sell this. I think that's ridiculous, and people buy from them before they buy from a broker who plays the game, who, is basically, like, I don't script, I don't cheat, but our players rather support cheaters and people that do this underhanded stuff. I don't get that.
Yeah, that's another good point. There's a few brokers out there who still play the game, just like myself, Vampiria, and others. I mean, there's some brokers out there that still play the game, that do everything by the book. And then there's brokers who don't even care about Ultima Online, have moved on to other online games, who have actually been known to be cheaters, and I'm going to stop right there, and yet they don't even play the game, and yet continue to conduct business in Ultima Online. So, I mean, I guess that's something you can keep in the back of your mind whenever you do, if you're one of the folks out there who do have an interest in purchasing in-game items. You can use that maybe or whatever. But, see, I'm just going to leave it right there. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic here, because I don't want to get a lot of people upset at me. Because, the business world is very cruel at times, so I'm going to leave it right there. Mining and lumberjacking while hidden. Do you think people should be able to mine and lumberjack while hidden? Do you think they should be able to, make, like in the old days? Because in the old days, it's been around for 8 years plus. So my question to you guys, do you think people should be able to mine while hidden, or lumberjack while hidden, and not be revealed upon digging, up ore or chopping a piece of wood off a tree? I mean, from a realistic aspect, I just don't see why would you allow it. But go ahead, Alex.
That's my question. Why would you? It just opens up even more cans of worms because they're hidden and you can't see them scripting.
Also, I quickly want to point out, a lot of people are like, well, if you just go over Feluca and go to this location, you'll notice some scripters going on. Well, the thing about Feluca, and the reason I didn't, you're absolutely right, the person that just ICQ'd me here. Yes, there are still scripters in Feluca, but the thing is, the players can take care of those scripters. The only thing is, what I have a problem with, for the most part, is people. I want to get where they're dropping all this stuff at, where they're conducting their base of operations, where are they taking all this stuff? Because you can bust a scripter, but, are you going to get all their, goodies that they gotten illegally? But anyways, back to the topic, mining and lumberjacking while hidden. Perry, you think that should be allowed?
Well, for the people that are actually honestly doing it, sure, why not? But the scripters are always in the back of everybody's mind because, that's what they're going to do. I mine and lumberjack in cell. I never hide because when I go, I take 5 of my red PKs with me and everybody leaves me alone.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine so, but, another thing is that I've been noticing some scripts out there, being used by the scripters where they go out, they recall, like normal, like all these other scripters who recently got busted, I would imagine, is that they would actually go out, recall, and then recall back in, and if they saw another player, the script would automatically go inside the house and hide them until the player left, and then after the player left, it would wait, go on a timer like 2 or 3 minutes, and then come back out and resume operations. But see that's the kind of the complexity in which we're working with here of some of the scripting operations being used by these scripters, is that they're actually using these skills or these things such as hiding in conjunction with mining and lumberjacking. And quite frankly, you cannot report something that you cannot see. I mean, you don't even know it's there. So how can you do something about something being done illegally in the game if you can't ever even see it? How can you deliver justice to something that you don't ever see? So, Town Junk, let me hear from you.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to turn that off.
All right. Anybody else got any opinions or any thoughts on the whole lumberjacking while hidden? Because quite frankly, I mean, at the end of the day, is that I just don't think you should be able to do a task that's very physical, that makes a lot of noise, like, like the digging sound, the chopping sound, and not anybody around you hear what the heck you're doing, or let alone, and yet remain hidden. I mean, I'm sorry, but when you're hidden and you do something like this, you're going to draw a lot of attention to yourself. And when you're hidden, you don't want to draw attention to yourself. So why would you allow something like this? Go ahead, Crest.
I'm with you with the reality issue, but well, this is Ultima Online, so Madge is throwing fireballs around, so so this is not really a valid argument for me. For me, there are two things. Normally, actually, I think to do something like mining, lumberjacking, something like that should reveal you, should make you visible immediately. But this will have a big impact on the Feluca player. I myself, I live in Feluca mostly. I mine there, I lumberjack there. And I know a lot of people, as Strive pointed out in the IRC, do this while hidden. They're still, I never hide because I think there, so a PK will just throw a poison field or whatever in your direction to see where you are. But this might be an issue, so this is something you should take care about. But still, Paducah is a risk versus reward. So I totally agree that doing resource gathering like lumberjacking, mining, I'm not quite sure about fishing, but I would say all the same, similar, and that should reveal you.
Yeah, well, see, here's another problem. And I'm sorry for all you people out there who are just now tuning back in and everything and realized, yeah, I got dropped. Apparently, my connection kind of crapped out. But anyways, getting back to the subject and everything, the only problem with people mining hidden, and while, yeah, you can still hear the sounds and everything, you don't know where on your screen the sounds are coming from. And secondly, you may not have tracking. So, I mean, and a lot of players, believe it or not, don't even use their sounds. I mean, I know I don't even play with my Ultima Online music on. So, I mean, why would you, what do you do to, what do you have the players who do not have their sounds on? What do you tell them? Go ahead, Chandra.
I was just going to say about this hiding thing, I know it must be, a real drag for a PvPer not to be able to go get that hidden miner. But let me just say this: if they take away hiding while mining, I think they ought to do away with being able to go into war mode while in hiding. Also, I think that as long as you can go into war mode while hidden, I don't see any problem with precasting while hidden either.
Yeah, well, see, that just opened up a whole can of worms right there, like you said. Or somebody said something like that. But, the problem is that, you just shouldn't be able to do that. I mean, hiding should be like for scouting purposes or for hiding from something that you're inferior against. I mean, it should be used as I don't want to be seen, while I'm doing so-and-so because I don't want to have to interact with nobody because, I'm just antisocial, whatever your reason is. I mean, really, I just don't think you should be able to do something like that. Go ahead, Ben Perea.
Well, in Phil, if you can hear the mining noise or the chopping noise, it's called Matt Spell to Win. And Joe Pam said that to Crest, actually, in our IRC, that you cannot fish hidden, which is, I don't think that's fair either. I think you should be able to fish hidden. I think you should be able to fish hidden. You can hear Al Jihad in the background.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. I don't think I mean, as long as you're performing any type of action, and believe it or not, here's something else. There are some skills or some actions that will actually reveal you whenever you use it or do whatever while hidden. So my question to you is this: why would you make an exception for lumberjacking or mining, and why would you exclude? I mean, and exclude all these other things. Why would you not allow all activities while hidden? I mean, hell, if you're going to allow mining and lumberjacking while hidden, why not let them all, do that? Because I don't think it's right for a game to say, well, we're going to exclude this one, and yet we're not going to, exclude that one. So, I mean, I think there has to be some balance here, and I really think this is something that needs to be done to restore a sense of balance and a sense of, well, a bit of reality. I mean, really, you're hiding. You're hiding. You're not trying to bring attention to yourself. I mean, if you're out there chopping away while somebody comes by, I mean, if you're, you just can't be hidden. I mean, if I go out in real life and I start chopping on a tree out my front yard, and my neighbor's out in the front yard as well, in his front yard, doing some yard work as well, and I start chopping on my tree, you don't think he's going to look over my way and see what the hell I'm doing? Or that he isn't going to notice me if I'm trying to hide or something? Of course he's going to know I'm over there. So, go ahead, Bembury.
Okay, well, here's my side of it. I'm a fell girl, so Tram doesn't really go into my mind frame. But in Cell, I wish more blue people would come to Cell and live there and actively create there and mine. And I know that's almost impossible. Thank you. I know that's almost impossible because of PKs, and I'm guilty of it myself. But for a valid, non-scripting person to come there, I fully welcome them. Hide if you want to get your resources or whatever. It brings more activity. It gets people more involved with Cell side. Let them hide. I mean, and then they're going to get on their fighter later and come out and play. I mean...
Well, you know, I think really at the end of the day, hiding should be for a purpose of trying to, get away from something, to evade something, or to simply try and spy on something. I mean, really, I just don't understand why would you use hiding in the first place. Well, hiding ideally is to get away from something or to spy on activities. Same, or scouting, I think that's really what hiding ought to be in this game. But, when you're able to do other things while in a pretense of hiding, I mean, if you look in a dictionary, what is the definition of hiding? Now, see, that's what I hate about this game. We take a meaning or something and totally construe it to our liking. Rather than give or making it to what it's supposed to be. And so we warp, these kind of things like hiding into something it shouldn't be. And that's what's bad for the game, in my honest opinion. So, I mean, I would much rather see hiding be hiding. If you're hiding, you're either spying or doing something to try not bring your attention to yourself. But if you're going to bring attention to yourself, you ought to be revealed. Go ahead, Deadeye.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, if you're going to hide, that means you're going to have to get somewhere and sit still. If you're doing something, you ain't sitting still. If you're talking, you're fishing, or something else like that. So that's the way it ought to be, in my opinion.
Yep. Well, let's see. Next topic here and everything, because I think we just about worn that one out pretty good. So let's go to the next one. I do want to quickly point out that the spring decor items is now available for purchase. I think it was put out a few days ago, about 3 or 4 or 5 days ago, because I got over there on the U-Haul, and I was like, when are we going to see spring decor items and everything? And so I'm kind of wondering, are you guys looking forward to spring decor items? Are you guys going to purchase any or what? Maybe you guys, in some cases, may already be selling them. So with that said, go ahead, Ben Perry.
I think I paged you about this earlier this week. I have them, and wow, I was actually impressed. They're pretty. I know that sounds really girly, and that's really not like me, but they were actually really well done, and they're cute. Okay, I am so gonna get PK'd when I get off this show, but yeah, they're cute.
Yeah, they're cute and fuzzy and hot pink. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
That's not very nice, Enrique, but they were really well done. Like, the graphics for them were really well done. 2D, 3D. My husband's picking on me, but yeah, they were really well done. I was impressed. I was really worried that they would look like cartoons, but some of them are really lifelike.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I do have to agree with you. I think they did a pretty good job. However, the U table, I was like, why would you put that in there? The Heartwood box, I was like, thumbs down. U-table, thumbs down, The only thing that I thought was really interesting was the herb basket. They gave the plus 10 to cooking. Also, another thing that I found interesting was the little cat, the statue cat that gave reagents. But I can already see something going on with that. And this is what I can already see with that. Just like the little water fountains that gave you special bandages if you dipped your bandages in it. The only thing that I see is that I can already see people lining their houses, with tons and tons of these so they can get reagents every day. I can already see it. Somebody out there right now, this very minute, has already got their house lined with many, many different things of these. And what I think they ought to be doing to keep people from doing this, because I really don't like the idea of people going out and getting about 40, 50, 60, 70 of these things in their houses, to create a reagent farm. I think we ought to be, for the most part, simply limit that to one per house that actually yields something. So I'm kind of wondering what y'all thoughts on that is. What are your thoughts on people doing that? Go ahead, Vampire.
Well, first, you're making fun of me because they're pretty, and the table that you're making fun of in the chest, I mean, new decor. No, don't call me a tranny, but some people spend a lot of time decorating their houses, and some people, there's amazing houses on LS, okay? Yes, you're all laughing at me. Okay. As for the lining up of things, I have 10 fountains of life to make bandages. And I guess, if they're going to put in the proficiencies and the different LRC that's coming up, then I guess we're all going to need regs again. So I guess it evens it out that you get your special bandages, mages get their regs back.
Yeah, I think you got a little bit of a trammy in you. I think you've been hanging out too much in Trammel. But anyways, yeah, go ahead.
I've been hanging out with you too much. I think that's what the problem is.
Yeah, I've been told that I had that magic touch. But anyways, I just think it ought to be reduced to how many you can have in your house. Also, the cap on LRC, which is coming up, you'll definitely probably need reagents again in the near future. But however, if people are going to line up their houses with 70 or 80 of these things, and they generate reagents every day, I'm kind of wondering this. Do those things stack up until you take them out? Or do you get one until does it stay that way until you take them out? In other words, you have to go out and pick them or otherwise it stacks up. So I'm curious about that aspect. Is it going to sit there in that little tummy or the belly of the cat and just stack up, or what? Or do you have to go out and pick these every day in order to get reagents to come in? I'm not sure if the developers out there listening in, they have the answer to that or not. But that is something I'm very curious about. Do they stack inside of these cat statues? So, because if so, that is a problem, and I think it could have been possibly overlooked. So, getting back to the whole topic and everything, I just don't like these things because they don't take gold from the system. I think people ought to be able to plant a reagent plant of some type or another, and depending on how healthy a plant is and stuff like that, it varies as to how much it can give you and stuff like that. So, okay, it doesn't stack up, it's what I'm being told. I guess that's a good thing. So you actually got to go out and pick them. All right, so let's see. I also want to point out that the folks over at PaxSlayer have told me that there's going to be a UO player gathering in Nashville, Tennessee somewhere on July 29th or the 30th, 2006. So be looking for details on that. If you would like to know more information about that, you can go to www.paxslayer.com for more details on that. But it's going to be a UO player gathering in Nashville, Tennessee. So check that out if you want to. And let's see, what can we talk about within the next 15 minutes? Alex, did you want to say something?
Yes. Draconi just said in the IRC that you have to take it out before it'll spawn more reagents.
Yep, and it looks like I just lost my connection again. So bear with me for a minute. Yep. You gotta love my ISP. Anyhow, we're back on there. I don't even know if this is all gonna save or not, so darn it. There may not even be episode number 32 for download, so just go on ahead and quickly put that out there. What did you say earlier again, Alex? Because I don't think the people out there heard you.
That Draconi said that the reagents have to be farmed before they will spawn more.
All right, well, that's a great thing to know, because I was kind of concerned about that, if maybe that had been overlooked, because I know it can easily happen from time to time, and I'm glad it's been addressed or looked into and made sure that it didn't happen that way. I don't know if that gets put out there, but there's going to be UO player gathering in Nashville, Tennessee on July 29th. Also is either going to be July 29th or July 30th, 2006. So if you would like to get more details on that, you can go to www.paxlair.com. So if you'd like to get information on that, paxlair.com is the place to go for that. So let's see. I think that's going to be pretty much that. That's going to be it for this talk show. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and wrap up before I get cut off again by my ISP. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up and give each and every person here a chance to say goodbye to all the listeners out there with us today. And so with that said, go ahead, say goodbye to everybody out there.
All right, this is DJ Deadeye. I want to say I'm glad that y'all could make it and listen to our talk show here this Saturday. Be sure to tune in again next week, folks. We'll be here again.
Yeah, and hopefully next week we will not be getting cut off as often like we are today. Not very happy about getting cut off. Let me put it that way. Let's see. And I am, of course, DJ Viceroy from Chesapeake, and so we'll see you next week. And Alex, let's hear from you. Say goodbye to everybody.
This is Alex from Great Lakes, and I just want to say I hope I can say goodbye before I get cut off.
Yeah, let's hope we can get through this before anybody else gets cut off. Chris, go ahead and say goodbye to everybody out there.
Well, it's not really a goodbye for me because my show is coming on now, so please all stay tuned, and I will say a warm welcome and there, and a goodbye 3 hours later if you can't stand that long. And I better rush out here to prepare my show.
Yep, and we'll see you in about, I guess, a few minutes from now while you get ready for your show. So we'll see you here in a little bit. He's going to be up next on the show, so see you in a little bit, Chris. And Ben Perea, let's go ahead and hear from you.
This is DJ Vampira from Lake Superior Fellside, and yes, thank you, dear, with my annoying husband, of course. And I just, everybody, boycott those big businesses and save UO.
Yeah, save UO. That's going to be the motto. Let's see, and last but not least, Town Drunk from Drakensfell. Let's hear from you.
Well, I want to say take it easy to everybody. And remember, if you're not having fun, it's not a game. So get off your ass and go outside. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's actually a beautiful day for once here in Texas. And so wherever you are at, if it's not rainy or whatever else, go outside. Enjoy it. Especially the people out in California. I'm sure they're loving it if they're not getting rain, that is. But anyways, this is going to go ahead and conclude episode number 32 here on April 2nd, 2006. And we are going to try to piece this together so we have an audio file for you guys later on today. Or, today. Or tomorrow. And so stick around. DJ Chris is coming up next. And once again, thank you for tuning in.